Hello guys, welcome back. It's 40-1, and we're going to be reviewing week 1 of the LCS. I've jumped the gun a bit. So week 1 was incredibly entertaining actually. We had a lot of really nice games. We also saw a return to the stage, which was really cool, and as someone who became an LCS fan probably around like I want to say it was like a week before like COVID really set in for the LCS. Like I've only ever known no audience, nothing. So like and everyone playing online. So it's cool to see like the guys back on stage and like the casters and the booths and all that. So all right, let's talk about what happened this week. So we're gonna go first 5 teams. We're gonna talk about 2 standout teams that were outside of the top 5, and then we're going to talk about the rest, like in a very quick one slide here. So first up, there's TSM. So TSM went 3-0 in their first week in the LCS. It was certainly surprising to me. Personally, before week 1, I didn't rate TSM very highly. I thought they were kind of inconsistent, and specifically Spica I felt was inconsistent. I also felt that they were largely carried by performances by like Power of Evil, Lost, and Huni at times. And I guess every now and again Spica would have a good game. But besides that, I felt drafts were kind of bad, and everything else was just really inconsistent macro play. But this week, we definitely saw a different TSM. There were a couple close calls. Certainly, the game against Evil Geniuses was close until EG kind of just completely threw at the end. And the game against Golden Guardians was also rather close until really Golden Guardians decided to run it down. So I'm not really sure what to think of TSM. They had a very solid win against Team Liquid, but Team Liquid now is one of those teams where we have to look at them differently. Are they as good as they used to be, especially after this week? And we'll talk about them in another slide, but it's pretty crazy. I'm not fully sold on TSM being like this great team yet. Like I've definitely seen a lot of analysts say that. A lot of casters have said it. Like, wow, TSM's been so good. Like, oh my god, like these guys, they might win LCS. And I'm not sold on it yet. I want to see how they perform next week. They're gonna have 100 Thieves. They're and I definitely think I'm still high on 100 Thieves. I still think like they are number 1 or they're close to it. So I want to see how they play in that game, and the rest of their games should be relatively easy for them to win. Next is Cloud9. So Cloud9 to me, heading into week 1, and I did put this down in my prediction video, and I talked about this a bit. The benching of Sven was, in my opinion, really stupid. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. After week 1, I do have to say, I don't think King is this team's problem. I feel as though they're too cocky. That's the read I get from Cloud9. They give off a vibe of we're just better than you, so we're not going to put forth the mental effort to actually like beat you. We're just going to try and rely on our skill. And because of it, I feel like Perks hasn't played very well. I feel like Fudge really didn't look that good, and I'm not very high on Fudge. I didn't think he'd be all that good coming back in the LCS. I think he had a couple of nice games at MSI. But besides that, I don't see him being, a top 4 top laner in LCS in the summer. I felt that Vulcan was engaging, and there was just no follow-up or coordination on his team's part. I thought that Blabber got gapped quite a bit, which is surprising to me. As someone who I really like Blabber as a player, and I think I was genuinely surprised that he got gapped as hard as he did in the majority of these games. And like again, I didn't think King played too poorly. I thought their drafts were also kind of weird. It was almost as if like they really hadn't fully adapted. Uh, a lot of analysts gave the excuse of, oh well, they just got back, they haven't had enough time to scrim, they haven't had enough time to do this and do that. And personally, I think that's a load of BS. Like, so what? You didn't have time to scrim. Like, you've been playing against world class opponents for like the past month. Like, what? You didn't have time to scrim against your LCS opponents. I guess the patch, like the difference in patch, is important. But honestly, if you look at the comparisons between the two patches, it's not that big. There isn't that big of a differential, especially with like what champs are meta and what items are meta. Like, it's not a good excuse, in my opinion. The game against Golden Guardians was complete, like, I don't even know what I was watching. Like, that, like, Cloud9 looked horrible in that game. 100 Thieves ran over them the next day. And then finally on Sunday, Cloud9 managed to beat a TL that didn't even look like they should be top 6. So I don't know what to expect from this team. They look really weird. I guess it could just be like, they didn't get enough scrim time or whatever excuse they want to give out. And they should have a really easy schedule next week, playing Fly, CLG, and Dignitas. It should be an easy 3-0 week. But we'll see. If they end up losing to FlyQuest or Dignitas, I suppose it's like, it's not horrid, like, they're middle of the pack teams. But if they lose to CLG, oh my god. I cannot imagine what Reddit will say. Now we've got 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves had a bit of a rocky start, losing to Immortals. A lot of people gave them a lot of crap for the Karma pick on Amadage. Me included, I personally did not like the pick. I still didn't like the pick throughout the rest of the week, even though it ended up working out pretty well for them. And I completely understand the strategic reason that they're doing it, and it makes sense in that regard. But for me, personally, I don't like the idea of taking someone that is such a good carry in Abbedagge, a ridiculous carry in the mid lane that, like we saw in LEC last year, like we've seen throughout his entire career, really. His mechanics are ridiculous. And put him on a support like Karma doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But hey, it worked. After the IMT game, they beat Cloud9 convincingly, like just destroyed them. And they beat Dignitas, and I'm not really sure how to feel about that. It was definitely a very clean game from 100 Thieves, so that's something to look at and go, wow, they did a good job. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about 100 Thieves. I think they're a really good team. I think they're, honestly, they might be the best team in North America right now after, the Team Liquid implosion after the benching of Alfari. So, yeah, I'm definitely very high on 100 Thieves, and I expect them to finish first or second. Dignitas. So, Dignitas tied for third with, 3 other teams, or 2 other teams, my bad. Was kind of weird. They came out and they beat the crap out of Evil Geniuses, which isn't really surprising. Evil Geniuses is a bad team. And then they beat FlyQuest. And that was kind of, yeah, they destroyed them, right? A great Rumble game from Dardoch. And then they get beat by 100 Thieves. The thing is, I'm not sure how to feel about this team. This team has horrible macro. Some of the worst macro I have ever seen in my life. They have no idea how to play mid game. They have no idea how how to fight around objectives, like what to decide. I was listening to LS actually the other day, and I don't normally agree with LS. I think he's kind of too out there with the majority of his opinions. But he was very right when he was talking about a team with no direction. There was the crucial fight for, I believe it was Seoul, right? And Dardoch is on the dragon, making the right decision, like after they've won a team fight. And the rest of the team is running it down mid, just going straight for the turret, or I think they were going for the inhibitor, and it ended up working out for them because they were playing against, I believe it was the EG game, and EG's horrible, so whatever. But it's strange to me that like a team can exist with such great team fighting skills and great mechanics. And honestly, what I think is very good leadership from Afromu and Dardoch too, and just have horrible macro, no direction in mid to late game. They just fight really well. So I have no idea what to feel about this team. I think I rated them quite well. I believe I put them 5th, which I think is still accurate. I think they will end up 5th. They had a very easy schedule the first week, except for 100 Thieves, who they lost to. This week, playing against TL, Immortals, and Cloud9. This will be a bit more challenging. I don't know how good TL is going to be again, but the Immortals game should be interesting after what we've seen from them last week, and the Cloud9 game should also be interesting. Team Liquid. Okay. So Team Liquid, of course, I've got the picture of Alfari. Front and center, let's address it. I have no idea what the hell is happening. It doesn't make any sense to me. It literally cannot be performance. It has to be some sort of issue personality-wise, or it has to be an internal issue. There's no way this has anything to do with performance. And it just seemed like such a last-minute decision. I watched Jat's interview with Travis Gafford, and Jat said, this was months in the making, or this was a month in the making. Like, this is something we've been thinking about for a while. And I just have to call bullshit. I really, really do. I have to call bullshit on that. There's no way that you said to yourself, and don't get me wrong, I don't think Jenkins is bad. All right, I'm not disrespecting Jenkins. Like, he seems like he's a fine player, right? But Alfari was first team All-Pro and second in MVP voting in spring. This is a guy that single-handedly carried Team Liquid in games in spring split, in many games in spring split. He was incredible statistically, mechanically. Like, it doesn't seem right to me to bench him. I really want to know, like, what is going on, because and Alfari actually tweeted out the other day what kind of seemed like a shot at the coaching staff, which leads me to believe, like, this is a permanent change. Like, they are not going to bring him back until they absolutely have to, until they are losing games, like, by quite a bit. But let's talk about Team Liquid as a whole and get off of Alfari here for a second. So Team Liquid got beat by TSM in the first game, handedly. It was a very good game from PoE. I thought Lost looked very good. But Team Liquid struggled. And that theme carried on throughout the rest of the week. They somehow managed to beat a Gwen-led CLG, which I thought was pretty interesting, because seeing Licorice play it literally the day before, like, he destroyed CLG on it. It wasn't even close. And I think that just leads me to believe, like, CLG is just horrible. And, like, you give them the most OP champ in the game, pretty much a guaranteed free win. and they throw it, to Team Liquid, which is, I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. And then the Cloud9 game was just a disaster. It was just a disaster. Neither of those teams played well in that game. It was a travesty from what was supposed to be our top two teams, or what was our top two teams last in the spring. And it makes me very concerned about, what happened. Like, what the hell happened in the 2 months in between spring and summer? What has happened that has destroyed both of these teams? It's pretty ridiculous. I thought Cloud9 would fall off, but I didn't think they'd look this bad. I thought Fudge would be respectable. I thought Perks would still be decent. I thought Blabber would still play incredibly well. And I didn't think the switch from King to Sven was really that big of a deal. Ultimately, I thought Vulcan would carry that lane, and it seems like he did in the first game, but they still lost. So, I don't know. It seems it's definitely weird, and I have no idea what to think of Team Liquid at this point. All right, let's get into our first of our two teams to highlight this week. So Evil Geniuses will be the first one we're going to highlight. Evil Geniuses are horrible. They are terrible. They suck. They are the worst team in the league. Slightly ahead of CLG, I guess. I guess CLG is the worst team in the league. But EG is very close second. Very close. I have not seen poor decision making in my life in a league game, and I play Silver Elo, than I did with Evil Geniuses, especially for Jizuke. The game against Dignitas was just a straight throw. The game against TSM, they could have won, but they just didn't back, overcommitted on taking an inhibitor, and then lost single-handedly ended the game. And I am not even going to talk. Like, the FlyQuest game was just so outrageous. FlyQuest won the early game super hard, destroyed EG. And then they made mistake after mistake. FlyQuest did in the mid game. They made a ton of mistakes. They let EG back into the game, and EG still lost. Granted, it was the best game of the week, and it was incredibly entertaining as a FlyQuest fan to watch, and I'm so happy they won, but it was just poor. Evil Geniuses are horrible. I rated them 9th, and I expect them to be there at the end of the split. They are awful. On to more pleasant news. Immortals. Immortals was the surprise of the week, going 3-0. They showed a lot of promise, a lot of progress that I thought a lot of casters, a lot of analysts didn't expect them to make. I ended up putting them 6th in my predictions for the end of summer, and I gotta say, they exceeded my expectations. I'm a huge fan of Revenge. I'm a huge fan of Insanity and Xerxes. I think all three of them are incredibly good. I think they're definitely underrated. But for me, the biggest problem I had with Immortals was their bot lane. I didn't think Destiny, I didn't think Raze could handle it. I didn't think, just looking at the spring split, like they were going to progress enough to the point where like they were going to be a dominant force. And they came out and they proved me wrong. We saw some dominant performances from Xerxes on the Rumble. We saw some great performances from Raze and Destiny. They both looked incredible. And then Revenge and Insanity were both great solo laners. This team, to me, played incredibly well this week. The problem is they didn't really play anybody of note except for 100 Thieves. That 100 Thieves game was incredibly impressive. They destroyed them. And 100 Thieves proceeded to beat the crap out of Cloud9 and Dignitas in the next 2 days. So to me, it's not like they beat like a weak team. They genuinely like manhandled 100 Thieves in day one. Beating Golden Guardians and beating CLG, it's not as impressive. And it's one of those things where I have to take away from it, what's there. And to me, they didn't really, I don't know. I don't know yet. They play Dig and they play TL next week along with Evil Geniuses. If they played like they did the first week, that should be a 3-0. They should easily 3-0 these teams. Like, they should be 6-0 summer split. And if they are that, by the end of next week, I am sold on Immortals. Immortals look great. They look incredibly good. I'm extremely excited to see what this team can do in the future. And now let's get on to the rest. So this is going to be pretty quick. I'm just going to say a couple things about each team. I'm a huge fan of FlyQuest, so I might be a bit biased. FlyQuest looked iffy. Better, definitely better. Like, the improvement is clearly there. Their decision-making was a hell of a lot better. Their macro was a lot better. Their early game was definitely better. But there were certainly mistakes, and they were evident. I didn't really know, it's kind of hard to place them. They're a better team, and they will definitely be in the playoffs, and I put them 7th, and I think that's about right. But I don't think it's fair to expect any more out of this team. I don't think they're really going to be good enough. But, we'll see. Their drafting was also kind of suspect in the second game, but I thought the rest of it was fine. CLG. So I feel very embarrassed about this because this is the team I picked to go into the play-in spot in Worlds. They were like my dark horse. It was a very bold prediction, but I thought, okay, CLG looked decent at the end of spring split, so maybe they're pretty good, or maybe they'll come out and they'll be better. CLG was awful. They sucked. Their drafting was terrible. Their play was terrible. Their mechanics were horrible. I don't even know what to think of CLG. CLG was horrid, and by far they are the worst team in the LCS. And that's saying something, especially with EG to contend with. And they will be 10th, I bet you. They do play Golden Guardians first game on Friday. I expect Golden Guardians to beat them, and I expect Golden Guardians to move up to that 9th place spot by the end of the week. So, yeah, rest in peace CLG, and rest in peace my bold third seed prediction there. Golden Guardians. So Golden Guardians, news of the week, they took out Cloud9 Friday in the third game of the day. It was an incredible performance and one that I definitely give a lot of credit to them for doing. I thought Ablaze Olive looked incredible in that game. He was very, very good. This team is not going to be good, but they do look better, and it's a step in the right direction, especially when you're trying to develop Iconic and develop Ablaze Olive. I think having a guy like Solo in the top lane, who I rate very highly, and I definitely I think he's very good, definitely helps with that veteran presence and that development that I think Stixxay was a bit too overwhelmed to give. Chime was pretty disappointing, I have to be honest. As someone who is a fan of Newbie and what he did in spring, a lot of people give him a lot of crap, but I think he was good. I thought he was decent. Chime was bad, really, really bad, and I'm not really sure how to feel about that particular roster move. Solo, on the other hand, looked very good, which I expected from Solo. But Golden Guardians, I don't anticipate, performing incredibly well for the rest of the split. They will finish. I think they'll finish 9th now that CLG has looked as bad as they have in the first week. But of course, it's overreaction. It's overreaction Tuesday for me anyway. So, and it's only week 1. So what do we know? Anyway, that is week 1 LCS in review. Thank you guys for watching. Click like and subscribe.